Case 5, Seigan's cost of rice. Attention, a monk asked Seigan, what is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma? What is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma? This question is a good one for all of us to ask ourselves. And we can ask ourselves this question periodically throughout our day as a kind of meditation practice. It can help us deal with anxiety when it arises, our obsessions with the future. It could help us deal with grief, with loneliness, with depression. When we consider what is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma, we're bringing our attention to something much vaster than what our egoistic mind is conjuring up for us in any given moment. So I recommend this question to you. It's the Genjo Koan, right? Who am I right here, right now, and what should I do? It's another way, it's another variation on the koan of the present moment. What is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma? And the response that Seigan gives to the monk is, what does rice cost in Roryo? What does rice cost in Roryo? This might seem like an enigmatic response, but it's very down to earth. When we consider the cost of things, we're talking about the mundane world. Here is where we are approaching tax season, and I find myself working with numbers and preparing my taxes. And this seems like such a worldly task when compared with the Buddha sitting on a lotus flower. It seems like such a non-spiritual task. When I first came to Mount Equity Zendo, one of my jobs was shopping. I had to go to the stores and buy things. And later on, I became the treasurer of that organization. This is the place where I trained, in a Zen monastery where I trained. I was, for a period of over 6 years, I was the treasurer. So I was constantly handling finances, and it seems like such an unspiritual thing to do. But Buddhism looks at money in a somewhat different way. Particularly Zen Buddhism looks at money a little bit differently than I think maybe we're accustomed to in the West. For many of us in the West, we may have some conflicting ideas about money, and I hope we can have a conversation about maybe some of your perspectives and ideas surrounding money. I know I have a lot of conflicting views around money. When I was training in Japan, I had the good opportunity to go on the alms rounds, which is a practice that goes back to the time of the Buddha. In the time of the Buddha, the monks were actually not allowed to handle money. They weren't allowed, not even symbolically, they were not allowed to touch it physically with their hands. They would receive alms in their begging bowl. And in exchange for those alms, for the physical sustenance, they would give spiritual goods. That was the and it still is in many Southeast Asian countries, the reciprocal relationship between the lay community and the monks and nuns. So the monks and nuns' job was to give the spiritual goods, and in return, they would receive material goods of food, clothing, and shelter. And on the other hand, the lay people's job was to give material goods and to receive the spiritual goods. And so there's this reciprocal relationship between the material world, the world of money, and the spiritual world, the world of Dharma. And without the one, the other does not exist. They are the material and the spiritual. It's not one is higher than the other. It's not one is above the other and the other is below, but they are totally inter-be. They inter-are with each other. So the question, what is the price of rice, can have us reflect on this idea of how we tend to separate the spiritual from the material worlds, and maybe help us to reintegrate. What is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma? It's something as mundane as looking at the price of things, comparing. One of the best pieces of advice that I was given when I was practicing with the monks, the Thich Nhat Hanh community. This was when there was a community in New York. And I went there, and one of the monks gave us some advice. He said, when you go shopping, make a list before you go into the store. Make a list before you go into the store of what you want to get. And that way, you just get just get those things that are on your list. And that way, when you go into the store, you're not distracted by the other things that are in the store. And I find that really helpful. And today with COVID, maybe some of you are already doing this, but I highly recommend it, is that you order your food and groceries online and have them give it to you directly into your car. And then you don't even have to go into the stores. You don't have to increase your risk of exposure to COVID. And you stay focused. So, COVID is just giving us this opportunity to practice in deeper ways. One way to look at COVID, and I don't mean to minimize the deep suffering that COVID has wreaked on all of humanity, but it also gives us an opportunity to practice and to kind of think about our practice, to go deeper into our practice. And you may want to try this if you haven't done it already, is just ordering things online before you get to the store. And then when you get there, pick it up, and you get to not be involved in going into the stores and being tempted by distractions, looking this way and that way. Your fear levels might go down. Your greed levels might go down as well, because, hey, let's face it, we're human and we desire things that we don't have. And every time we go into a store, we are inundated with the advertisements that try to get us to buy things. And so this is one way to eliminate all of that distraction. Just get the things that you need and then return. So maybe we can have a short discussion about our own relationship with money. What is your relationship with money like? Do you disdain it? Do you secretly crave it but feel shame around having that craving? No? So I want to open this up for discussion. Yeah.
My parents were extremely frugal, my mother in particular. And part of my practice now is to not feel, to begin to let go of that. It's the opposite of craving. It's the fear of spending money or the guilt if I do spend money. I'm trying to just make it much more neutral.
Mm-hmm. So, so you notice in yourself fear and guilt around the movement of money through your hands, fear and guilt. Mm.
Mhm.
That may be a good place to kind of think, like to introspect. What are the feelings that come up for us with regards to having money or not having money?
So in this culture, I think we tend to think of money as somehow a little dirty or certainly material
Mm.
and pretty troubled. I've come across two phrases that I like that reframe it, though. Money can be used as a pretty profound gift. In that context, um, I've heard the phrase, money is love in the form of money.
Yes.
And the second one, a friend and I were trying to help someone at one point, and he said, it never was our money.
Mm. Thank you. Yeah, we see money as dirty, but it can also be a really profound form of love. Yeah, you think about making charitable donations for people in need, for example, or even just a family. It's a way of showing your love. It's interesting too how I think how money has changed over the centuries. In in ancient times, you had, for example, coins, and people had to carry money around. It was heavy. It weighed stuff. It weighed something heavy, and that's apparently part of the reason. I've just done some just really superficial research on this, but apparently that's some of the reason that paper money came to be used, is because people wanted something lighter to hold on to. And now we've got paper money, but now our money has also become digital. They're just images, it's not even paper, it's right. You look at your bank account online and it gives you a number. There's nothing tangible. In a sense, it's become very spiritual, hasn't it? It's not even tangible anymore. How our relationship, that the way that currency, and we trust that people have that amount, right? Based on the number they see there. It's very strange to think about. Another thought is that, I don't know, just my thought is here, it talks about what is the price of rice. Now, this koan story was written in ancient China, in probably happened somewhere around Tang Dynasty China, or maybe Sung Dynasty China. But in Japan, at one time, rice was actually a currency. So asking the price of rice is like asking what's the worth of a $10 bill. And so it's another way of seeing the relative and the absolute as totally intertwined. The absolute being that which is beyond conception, and the relative being, form and emptiness. Another way of saying form and emptiness.
It feels to me, I don't know if I'm being heard or not. Am I
Yeah, I can
plugged
hear
in?
you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
That in the last couple years, people aren't millionaires anymore. They're billionaires, and they're super billionaires. And the guy who's head of Amazon, when he and his wife got divorced, her divorce settlement was about $36 billion. And the amount of money that is spent on elections just staggers me. Where we all argue, and Senate and House argue about helping middle class or poor people, or now boosting children out of poverty, which are worthy goals, but they're spending so much more on ads. And a Super Bowl ad was what, $5 million for a 30-second. It's this become unwieldy and out of control, and it blurs my, if you read enough of it, I'm afraid that you'll absorb it, and it's dangerous when it's out of control.
Yeah.
When I lived in Oregon in particular, I learned to barter, and I really liked that. I will mow your lawn and you can give me some eggs, or whatever. Let me sleep on your land in my car and I will help weed your, garden. And I used to live near someone who actually lived that way. He lived in a small hut on this huge property. And that's what he did most of his life. And I got kind of involved in that. And I felt this is the way for me. I felt calmer because it was like even out, and I could talk to people. And we would give each other what we needed, rather than here's the green stuff, but.
Yeah, that sounds really beautiful, Nawab, to be able to like a barter system like that. Sounds very kind of pure way of living.
I learned a lot through that I learned a lot through people that do that.
I recently finished a book that is more influential, looking back over all the different parts that it covered, including money. Probably the most profound book I've ever read. It's Sapiens by Yuval Noah Harari. And there's, it's long and intense, but kind of easy reading at the same time. And the chapter on money is just, you can never think of money the same way. And he's looking historically. It's the subtitle of his book, Sapiens, the story of the history of humans, or something like that. And it goes way, so on whatever the topic is, it goes back to thousands and thousands of years ago on up to the present, and what money means and what it is and how it's changed. And after reading that, you just can't think of money the way you used to.
Mm. The title is Sapiens.
Sapiens. And the last name of the author is Harari, Harari.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I actually started, I don't read books just because I suffer from back pain, so I listen to them most of the time. And I maybe about a month ago, I started listening to that book, Sapiens. It sounds really interesting so far, for sure. Did you share about money? It's not that I don't like to talk about it. Maybe I just need to sit down and really just kind of get over it. Just kind of, if we're talking about government and things like that, companies, just makes me mad. For example, we're talking.
Yeah. I'm also thinking, for me, for a lot of time, money has been associated with anxiety and not having enough. I can definitely, there's been times when I've definitely feel, especially when I was in training as a student, and when I was in training at Mount Equity Zendo, I lived on really very, very little. And I was very moved by my teacher's stories around money. She shared with me, when I first met her, she shared with me that when she lived in Japan as a nun, she had to give up all of her, she didn't give everything up. She had a small amount saved, but she didn't have a job at one point. And she had to earn enough money to pay for, in Japan, they have national health insurance, and everybody has to pay for their health insurance. So what she was asked to do then, in order to do that, because she was given food through living at the women's monastery, she was given her food and clothing and that kind of thing. But she was asked, she could go out on the alms rounds once a month to receive alms from people. And I was just so moved by the fact that when she returned, she would say, every time I returned from going out on the alms rounds, I would have just enough to pay for my health insurance. So there is this there's anxiety that I'm sure she experienced around money, around having enough and making enough. And then as well as the trusting in the universe, that the universe will provide for us what we need. And I think that's somewhat absent in our relationship with money, that where does money come from? Right? And if so just hearing the stories of my teachers, I found hers really, really inspiring. It made me want to think about, oh, you know what? I can trust the universe, and what will come, what needs to come will come. And she would also say, one of the things that her teacher taught, Noda Daitoroshi, he said, she was worried about having enough money when she first became a nun. She's like, how am I going to make ends meet? And her teacher's advice to her was, if you have a heart for the way, hobo kore, no, how's that going? Doshin no naka e jikiari. If you have a heart for the way, doshin, a heart for the way, you'll always have enough food to eat and enough clothing to wear. And that's what my teacher wrote on the back of my Buddha robe when I took precepts with her. If you have a heart for when I became a priest, if you have a heart for the way, you'll always have enough food to eat and enough clothing to wear. And so, in other words, if you take care of the Dharma will take care of you. There's a reciprocal relationship going on there. And so what we do for the Dharma matters. If we take care of the Dharma, if we turn the Dharma wheel in our own way, take care of the Dharma, take care of our lives, take care of the movement of the Dharma, that means the ending of suffering in our lives, in our relationships. If we take care of that, then the Dharma will take care of us. And another thing that Noda Daitoroshi said is that if you don't have a heart for the way, if you don't have that desire for enlightenment, to wake up, to end the suffering of yourself and all beings together, if you don't have that desire, then no matter how much food and clothing you have, it will never be enough.
Mm.
So not taking care of the Dharma doesn't necessarily mean you're not going to have money, but it's never going to be enough. And so greed flourishes. And so if we can bring our attention or bring our mind into that desire for enlightenment, then the universe takes care of us too. There's a reciprocal relationship going on there that we've got to kind of access, take advantage of. We can take advantage of this in every moment. Just like asking ourselves, what is the ultimate meaning of the Buddha Dharma? What is the ultimate meaning? And carrying that forward, that question forward, and the actions that proceed from that question, that's taking care of the Dharma. That's taking care of the Buddha Dharma. So we could use our lives to, as long as we're taking care of the Dharma will take care of us. There's that connection with all of us. To not have any anxiety at all about money. Right? Just take care of your life. Take care of the Dharma. Not have any anxiety at all when it comes to money. Money will be there in the amount that we need it. It might sound maybe coming from a place of privilege, but I don't know. I'm not saying we shouldn't try to earn money. That's not what I'm saying at all. But I'm just saying, put our attention, in the Bible, it talks about putting your trust in the kingdom of heaven, right? I think there's a parallel here, putting your trust in the kingdom of God. And store up your treasures in heaven, not on earth. What is it that the universe is asking for us to do? And can we take care of that?
There's also another, which reminds me, there's another saying in the Bible, but I don't know where, that I always bring to heart. It said, you can't serve two masters,
Mhm.
the master of money and the master of God, or, which master will you serve?
Which master will you serve? Yeah.
Kingdom of God or kingdom of Rome, or, during that time, or.
Yeah.
I don't know if this ties in, but um, when I spend, I try to look at, I think of it as a vote that, okay, just as an example, do I get fair trade, organic coffee, or just the regular? Not that there's anything wrong with the regular, but if I can, I'll vote to do the fair trade. But I think it can be political. I think it's a political act in terms of how our money is spent. And hearing, all the comments and listening to you, Daishin, it heightens my awareness, like, even just being more conscientious about that. And so thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's a vote. It is a vote. The way we use our money. It's a powerful action, and it changes the course of things. For example, I'm thinking about the palm oil. Palm oil can be found in so many things. It's an ingredient in candy bars and in butters and peanut butters and things like that. And it's very cheap to buy, but the cost of it is actually much more expensive than what we're paying for, because in order to get palm oil, they are destroying pristine rainforests in various parts of the world. I saw videos of this, like plumes of smoke going up, so that palm trees, these kinds of trees that produce the palm oil can be planted instead of the rainforests being there. And this intrusion into the wildlife is what also causes the hopping of COVID.
Yes.
From from a zoonotic disease from animals into humans, because we're too close. We're getting too close to and so the disease is feeling under pressure, so it hops to human beings. So if we can choose sustainably sourced palm oil, if we can have the presence of mind when we go into the grocery store looking at the labels of things, where does it come from? What ingredients are in there? Are they sustainably harvested? And if we're purchasing things, maybe it's more money that we're spending, but if we spend it on cheap forms of palm oil, it's actually quite more expensive for humanity. If we have the money, if we do have the money, we should use it in that way.
And I always am interested in, who suffers because of this product, or, making this product or getting it to market or whatever. Who is suffering and what is happening?
And that's the Buddhist question, right? A lot of people don't like to think about politics and religion together, but I think they're really inseparable. Economy and religion is inseparable, because what we do matters on the political level, on an ecological level, on an economical level, and it can create suffering depending on our small decisions with money. All right. Well, we started out with, thanks for this is a great ending. I appreciate this. Any other final thoughts before we have we'll do the 4 vows. Please share. Robert, sorry, we looks like we lost you there for a few seconds. It seemed like you were wanting to say a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. I was talking to myself there for a while. Yeah, internet. I think I hopefully shared enough. But yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. All right, I'm going to pull up the 4 vows. And here they are. I'm going to put them in the chat box. Here they are. So if you check your chat box, they should be up there. And let's recite these together. This is our closing dedication for this evening. Beings are numberless. I vow to free them. Delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to end them. Dharma gates are boundless. I vow to master them. The Buddha way is unsurpassable. I vow to realize it. In closing 3 bows to the Buddha, the Dharma, Sangha. Thank you all so much for your practice this evening, for a good discussion on money. Just a quick note, on Saturday, we're going to have a half day of Zen from 1:30 to 4:30, and we'll be looking at how to make a home Buddhist altar. So if you're interested in learning about a little bit about the Buddhist altar and possibly creating one in your own home, I have blueprints for one, for how to actually make it if you're interested in that. So I'll share those then. But we'll also look kind of like the meaning behind the altar and kind of ways to understand it during the Dharma talk. And the other thing I wanted to mention is that I'm hoping maybe next month we'll have a Zen cooking retreat, so that we'll spend some time sitting and some time creating a meal together. Of course, it'll be online, but my thoughts around that are kind of shifting, but I'm thinking that we would work together on a recipe, and I'll just kind of give some perspective from a Zen Buddhist on how to create a meal, and also give you some ideas on some things that you can make that would be taking into account some of the things we mentioned this evening, like where do our ingredients come from, and how does it affect not just ourselves but the rest of the planet. Give us some ideas on ways to cook and ways to bring meditation into the cooking process. It's something I really love doing and feel like it's well overdue. So just to keep that on your radar, and when you get the newsletter, it should be in there maybe in another couple of weeks. All right. Good night, everybody. All right. Thanks, Judy. Thanks, Robert. Bye, Jenny. Bye, Navad. Bye, Stephen. Bye, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep up your good practice.